Hello and welcome to the Dustin Eric podcast show brought to you by Mimosa Networks. Hi, I'm Dustin.
I'm Eric.
Today we're on episode number 27, Equipment Compatibility. So basically we're going to talk about what equipment will connect to what other equipment. This seems to be a pretty common question that's come in on YouTube on several videos that we've done lately, so we figured that we'd go ahead and do a show about it and just get it out of the way for everybody. So, happy third day of Halloween, Eric.
Oh, wow. You mean we get 27 full days of Halloween?
You mean 31 days of Halloween?
Well, I mean remainder. Let's see, 31 less 3, 27, 28, maybe 28 left.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, something like that.
I'll tell you what, Lowe's, Home Depot, and Ace Hardware, they're already geared up for Halloween.
They have been for a while.
Yeah, and I think the Christmas stuff's out too.
Sorry, people. Tangent. Anyway, point-to-point radios. So, in the first slide here, if you guys are watching from home, and if you're not, we have B5 Lite under the AP. And under the station, we have a B5 Lite. Of course, those two will connect and talk to one another. And then also under station, we have a B5 and a B5C. Mm-hmm. So yes, the B5 Lite will connect to a B5 and a B5C. Just make sure that the B5 Lite's in AP mode. Why is that, Eric?
Well, actually, with the B5, you're looking at single channels versus dual channel widths on the B5, and there could be some there's some incompatibility there. We might overload the B5 Lite. The 5 has its fixed gain antenna and so forth, so you potentially could overpower and confuse the B5 Lite if we went that route, right? If we give that a shot.
Right.
Or something to that effect.
And then the B5C, of course, you can set antenna gain, whereas the B5 Lite doesn't have an antenna gain you can set because it's integrated. So
integrated with
certainly don't want to confuse the radios on what they're trying to do.
The Lite's got a fixed antenna gain at 20 dBm. So he's just a little guy. So you come in with a hot B5C and some heavy TX power with even a small 2-foot dish on that B5C and the B5. What do you think the B5 Lite will do at that point? Might handshake at a single channel. At you lower everything on the B5C,
right?
But just
so yeah, for sure wouldn't handshake with. As you say, handshake with 2x-channel or anything like that. So
link up or whatever.
Next slide here, we have under the AP a B5, and then under the station, of course, a B5 will connect to a B5, but the B5 will also connect to a B5C. So why can't I connect the B5C to a B5 with the B5C being an AP? Well, it's similar to what we just talked about. So the B5 is integrated, the B5C is connectorized. So having the B5C as the AP, you could technically set the antenna gain higher or lower than the B5 and cause some confusion on the B5 because it's not set to change antenna gain.
And I think you'd have to watch your frequency range, your operating range on the B5C.
Right.
It's well, actually, on the B5 at here I got a note 5.1, right around just 5.1 gig to 5.8 on the B5, and then look at the wide range on the B5C at 4.9 to 6.2. So you just have to really watch where you're at as well, right?
It's a hardware limitation on the B5 that was designed only to operate between 5.1 and 5.85.
Yeah. Okay.
And then this slide here shows a B5C to a B5C, but to nothing else, which we've already explained in the previous two slides why the B5C won't connect to a station B5 or to a station B5 Lite. The next one here shows C5C as the AP, and then station units are C5C and the C5X. So, of course, the C5C will connect to a C5C. Mm-hmm. But because the C5X is exactly the same thing as the C5C, except it's a modular antenna radio instead of a connectorized, they will connect up and work fine. And Eric, we have what kind of link do we have out in the field?
We do. We've got actually with two C5Cs, we're running 56 miles on that with that, and at And in another location, we've got a C5C and a C5X. C5X is aiming directly or off axis of a 10-foot or a 3-meter an old large dish, and the other side, the C5C, is with what do we run there? 34 dB antenna on that. And what's the distance on that guy?
It's 43.
That's a 43, or okay. So that works.
Yeah. So just to
you
elaborate on the C5X, it is pointed into a 10-foot dish. It's not actually screwed onto the back of anything.
Right.
It's similar to our 10-foot C5C dish, where we have an RF elements horn facing into the big 10-foot dish.
So a 10-foot dish, and you got a little C5X on a pole, and it's about 48 inches from the focal point there. And then we kind of messed with the angle of the C5X on that 10-footer and found the hot spot. So
right.
Yeah.
And so here on the next slide, it's essentially the same thing you just saw, or we just talked about, except reverse. So under the AP side, you have C5X, and on the station side, you have a C5C or C5X. Again, they're exact same radios, so you can use those in any configuration you want, either a point-to-point AP or a point-to-point station.
And just add on the X, add the appropriate either at native 8 dB out of the box, or go with your X12, 16, or 20 or 25 dB as needed for the link length.
And then, of course, the last slide here is a B11 will only talk to a B11, and B24 will only talk to B24, because those are 11 and 24 gigahertz frequencies respectively. So
obviously some firmware and some hardware, it's got to be right on the nose there.
Right. All right, so we'll go on to point-to-multipoint radios. So we have two different point-to-multipoint access points, the A5 and the A5C. So in this example, the A5, of course, is the access point, and it connects to a C5, a C5C, or a C5X. And then the other one is the A5C, which connects to the exact same three radios. I know there's a common question that comes in asking, can I make my C5X an access point for a point-to-multipoint solution? And what's the answer to that, Eric?
Actually, no. There's some firmware and some hardware incompatibilities. Is that correct?
Well, of course. The C5X is only available as a point-to-point access point or a point-to-multipoint client.
It cannot be set up as a client side.
Another common question we have is, can I use a C5 as a point-to-point radio, either as an access point or a station? So what's our answer to that?
So that has some incompatibility between some firmware.
So firmware and hardware.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So the C5 can only be used as a point-to-multipoint station unit. While it might look just like the B5 Lite, which can do point-to-point only, there are some internal differences on the board.
Right.
So it's a little different. And of course, the firmware is completely different on the B5 Lite and the C5.
All right.
Okay. So is there anything else? Didn't we talk about something else before we started?
You got the APs, at the 24 gig.
No, I think that's everything. I think we covered it all. Well, there's one more question, and it's the most common question that we almost forgot. Can I connect a C5X or a C5C to a B series radio?
Oh,
that
an X to a B. Yeah, that's got some hardware issues there. There's some compatibilities, right?
I don't know if it's hardware. It's mainly software limitation, because they're on two different different types of firmware now.
Firmware issue. Yeah,
so for the moment, they definitely cannot communicate. That might change in the future, but we don't know. So we're just gonna stick with they won't talk.
They won't talk at this point. We'll run some tests here in a little bit, though, won't we?
And one last thing, everybody. Wispapalooza is coming up in the next couple of weeks. And, of course, Mimosa has a party happening on Tuesday night, the week of Wispapalooza. That will be at the Apex at the Palms.
Palms.
So that's basically next door to where the convention's happening at, where most people are staying. So we look forward to seeing you guys show up. We have a special announcement to make there.
Yes.
Eric's getting married. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'll be getting married for the third time.
Oh, sorry, that's not the right announcement. But we do have an announcement to make.
Do you have the right
night.
Eric?
Oh, it could be a different one. So we definitely have an announcement to make Tuesday night, so feel free to join us so you can hear about some cool new things coming your way.
Ooh.
So we'll catch you on the next podcast, which will happen in Wispapalooza, Vegas.
2019.
2019. All right, guys. Well, see you next time. See you in Vegas. Thanks for tuning in. Please hit the subscribe or follow button to stay up to date with our latest podcast, which will be available on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud.